notes or?
Yeah, this is actually, yeah, it's for my class.
So are you playing this for your class?
Hmm?
Are you playing this recording?
Yes,
for
I
your
am. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
So it's
That's
all good. Yeah. So let's get started then. And I will ask you both, maybe we can talk about the fact that there doesn't seem to be any typical day in corporate services, in corporate communications. What are some of the daily routines that typify your corporate communications office? What's it like?
for sure. Shannon, did you want to overview that since you're really the day-to-day hands-on?
Sure. And John, just let me know you can see all of me, or
Oh yeah.
if you're going to play it to the class. I don't want them to see just like my eyebrows or something.
No, it's
Okay,
all
so
good.
as long as it looks good. A daily day definitely would start with kind of come in the morning and basically trying to get kind of a scope, a lay of the land of what's happening in corporate communications and how it might impact our roles and as a municipal government. So what we'll do is we do media monitoring first thing in the morning. So we do have a service. So we look at Google Alerts as well to kind of see what's in the news, see if there's any sort of issues that would be affecting us, to see if there's anything we might have to mitigate, to look for good news stories. So we do media monitoring first thing in the morning. We also look to see if there's any misinformation that we might have to do media corrections on, or false information out there that we might, again, have to ask for a correction. We also, you talk later, social media as well. So we do social media first thing in the morning as well. Again, just to see what sort of issues, if there's questions that need to be responded to right away. We find people online expect responses right away. So it's best if we can get a response to a community member or a member of the public, but before like letting something sit there and other people commenting. So we like to get back to people right away. From there, we just have our regular duties. So it would be, media relations. We might be working on media releases. We could be working on a photo opportunity. We could also be working on a community engagement launch. So we also oversee community engagement, which we reach out with surveys and other online tools and other opportunities. Mm-hmm. So that could be part of our communications. We also have communications work plans we're working on. So there's myself as a manager and 4 communications officers, and they each sort of have their own assignments. So one might be, for instance, be working on advertising or on the comm plan, for instance, for the Rotary Park. So the development of Rotary Park and how we're going to redevelop it. We had a council directive. They asked us to go out to what you'd like. So part of that comm plan, I'm kind of skipping ahead, would be advertising, would be a media release, would be social media. Mm-hmm. So I think hopefully that answers your question. Anything I'm forgetting, Tracy?
So just a couple of things as well, because I think the traditional role of a communications person really has changed over the last few years specifically, but I'd say maybe even 5 years. So they're more, I'd call them web specialists as well. Mm-hmm. In the past, it typically was an IT function in most municipalities and even corporations, and that's now been folded into a corporate communication role. So there's a lot of website time that gets invested from the corporate communication officers. The other piece too, Shannon touched on it on the media coverage, is, she talked about looking at the different issues and things like that, but we also take a look just to make sure that our the information that we're sharing with both our media as well as our public is being picked up as well. Mm-hmm. And then when there's issues that do arise, we're just making sure that, when we've issued the communication, whether it be through social media or to members of the media, that they're covering it. Mm-hmm. So I think those are the 2 other things. But yeah, they have a lot going on. It's never a dull moment.
Mm-hmm. I did want to add one thing, John. I forgot to mention, we also have a communications email. So it's sort of, as Tracy would explain, almost like a triage. So that email, just in case I happen to be away, or as my background looked like before, if I'm on some tropical vacation, which I'm not, it's sort of our kind of a triage. So in the morning, I'll go in, whoever's acting for me will go in, and we'll sort of look from there to see as well if there's any time sensitive issues. Some things could be from even our fire dispatch, could have just, it could maybe have, they've responded to a call. So we'll get sort of some high level information. So at least we know if, there might be some communications or support required, but we also get things as well from our community partners. So it could be a high water level advisory from CLOCA that we post out to our our channels as well. And like Tracy said, we do, part of their communications plans are to do our website. So we make updates on our website as well as on our community engagement website, as well as social media. So it's kind of it's a very wide range of things that all the communications officers do. I even myself will go in and make changes to the website as needed. So
Right.
it's kind of an all hands on deck job.
Mm-hmm. So a range of different things. What things do you need to keep in mind as you balance the city's nonpartisan communications needs and the political side? Because I know there's always that political side. I teach a course in public sector communications, and we talk about that, some of those gray areas. What is that like, and how do you manage that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we really focus on the nonpartisan side. So the communications that we would tackle would align with council direction or their priorities. But there's definitely a firm line between the job that we do and the partisan side.
Mm-hmm. All right. And maybe we could just talk a little bit. You talk about the breakout, the functions of different people in the organization. A common adage today is that there's no such thing as social media versus traditional media. It's all just media now because of the influence of social media. But how significant is the growth of social media, and how important is it to the communications function today? I think I'm throwing you a soft toss there, but
yeah, no, I'm going to let Shannon answer that because they track all their analytics and they can definitely tell you the change.
Yeah, I think both are still important. From what we've even talked to from our relationships with local reporters as well, is it's changed for them as well. So they're now expected to take the photos, do the social media post, to write the story. We do have very strong partnerships with our local media. I was a former freelance journalist myself. I have somebody on staff that was a former local journalist as well. So I think that helps understanding their side and where they're coming from. We do know from the local media that they as well track, they're also supposed to do social media. So it's also tracked on what gets more clicks and engagement. So they're also pushed as well to put out the story that's going to get the most clicks and tracks as well. So how we do that is, again, social media is very important, and that's why we check it every day, but we still think the traditional media is still important as well. So reaching out and doing media pitches, inviting the local media to photo ops, making sure when they do have questions and want to speak to somebody that we can quickly get them in touch with someone. So it is a fine balance. I mean, I guess the biggest thing I see is there can be a lot of misinformation on social media. Right. I mean, from a personal level and from a working level, that's because it grows so much, right? And that's the only thing that I would say that like I said, I see it personally, and then I see it at work as well.
And so responsiveness is obviously very important. You mentioned earlier the fact that you're always scanning stories, you're always being prepared to respond to perhaps things that are said that are not correct and you need to correct them. And I guess social media would make it that much more significant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think it's too just getting back to residents. A lot of people, like I said, once you post something like, hey, have your say on this, they might have a question. So it's also just responding to their questions and engaging in the channel that you've pushed out. So just because you've pushed out a message on social media, you can't say, oh, well, if you have any questions, you have to call us or email. So it's getting back to them. So what we do is we work directly with the staff leads to find out the answers to questions as well. But yeah, we have, just to kind of give you an idea, we have a corporate Facebook account and a corporate Twitter account. So we do look for mentions. We have a LinkedIn account as well. We also have a YouTube channel. We do our own videos in-house as well. So those are all things that we just have to respond to questions on as well. And then in addition to that, we have an Instagram account, and then we also have we have audience specific channels. So our economic development, for instance, has their own Twitter. Our animal services has their own Facebook. And, it's interesting, you talk about media in Facebook. When Kristen Callis from Oshawa This Week used to cover she said a column on animals. So they used to get tons of engagement and pickup, but now online, the animal services, it gets their engagement and their numbers just continues to skyrocket because it's just that's the way that their audience likes to work with them.
Well, And let me ask, are there issues or crises that you have to handle on occasion? What's that like, and how do you handle them?
Yeah, do you want me to speak to that, Tracy?
Yeah, I think the main one, and yes, and I think the crises they depend in scale. There can be smaller ones, right, as large ones like the pandemic, right, has been a significant crisis. And I'll turn it over to Shannon because she literally has been in the trenches right from the get-go on that one.
Yeah, similar to what Trace said, we do have sort of an emergency plan in place as well, like an emergency center if we need to, if there was a major one. So there's that, and there is a wide scale of things. We've had anything from, we've had fatal fires on Center Street. We just had one earlier this year on Olive Street Avenue. That was a fatal fire. So that's something that we would assist fire with their messaging and help them get the communications out. Our fire chief does a fabulous job, so we're there to support. But there's other things such as we had a workplace incident. It was a contractor working on one of our streets, and there had to be a rescue of one of the workers. So that could be that would be another example. We had a rail derailment as well that we worked on, and other issues could just be smaller things like a temporary closure of one of our buildings if there's it's something's wrong with it or something, you know what I mean, like just say the boiler went down or something at one of them. So smaller scale as well. The way that we handle it again is kind of all hands on deck. We use that communications email. And our first thing to do, though, is we do kind of have a structure in place. So we make sure that we connect with the right corporate leadership team and with our fire chief, who's responsible for emergencies. And as well as we try to get something out kind of as soon as possible, but we have to make sure that it's fact checked as well. So it's a fine balance because sometimes others want to wait to have more information. And the time when you're in an emergency, it keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. And at some point, it's like, we've got to get something out, right? So let's get out what we have now. So it's a fine balance of getting something out with enough information, but not waiting too long. So even I'm trying to think back to COVID. I think we were all there on the Friday. There was an emergency council meeting held, which I attended to write down notes that we could be using for a media release or an issue to the public to say if whether or not we're in a state of emergency. And I think we were there till 9:30 or 10 at night writing it. So, all hands on deck, all of us that could be were in there, and we were all working back and forth directly with the team. And then even the next day, I think the mayor did his first video. So we were all back in on the Saturday.
So that keeps you busy. Now, what is the best part of the job?
I think that's the best part, is a little bit of everything. We all have a long background, so I enjoy the variety of it.
Well, that's great. And Tracy, you're overseeing a number. You wear a number of hats at the city. Yep.
So the best part for me from a communication perspective is definitely every day is different. And you never get bored, but I think the other piece too is the people, right? And there's such a great sense of teamwork and collaboration and dedication from staff as well as our partners, because we do rely on our partners to help us with the communications, that there really is that overarching collaboration and teamwork, which I think is fabulous.
Well, that is great. Well, I don't have any other questions. You gave me some great answers there, and I do